All right, so hello. I am going to talk about your comparison essay assignment and give you a bit of a rundown of what is a comparison essay and how do you create one. So a comparison essay does just that, it compares. So you take two pieces of writing or two ideas and you look at the similarities and you can also look at the differences. So really a comparison essay is compare and or contrast. There is a certain amount of analysis or evaluation involved when you are creating an essay like this. You need to read both of the essays that you are going to compare, and you need to determine things like what is the main topic, how is the essay constructed, what ways are the essays successful, or where might they be lacking. So we're going to go over different elements that you can look at in order to compare your essays. You also need to remember that while you are focusing mainly on the two bodies of work, your own opinion is important as well. So as you are writing, also consider which of the essays do you find more compelling, or which of the essays do you feel is better organized? Which of the essays do you agree with or disagree with more? And while the content of the essay does matter, also remember that construction of the essay is another thing that you can compare. So is one essay written more as a narrative while the other essay is more of an analysis? Does one essay appeal more to the ethos side of methods of proof, where the other essay maybe appeals more to pathos? Do you find the tone of voice in the essays to be different? So these are all structural things that you can also use to compare your two essays. So your assignment for this module is to choose two of the three essays that you have been assigned to read. So Learning to Unlearn by Curtis Gillespie, Canada, You're Like My Favorite Uncle and I Love You by Richard Van Camp, and What is Cultural Appropriation by Chelsea Vowell. These can all be found in your textbook through Pearson Online. Compare the essays, consider their structure, methods of proof, evidence, analysis, voice, thesis. Chapter 7 covers comparison essays, so be sure to look at that. You're going to want to have a clear thesis statement, have well-organized paragraphs, and again, include your own evaluation or opinion about the two essays. So as you are reading the three essays and choosing two of them, take some notes. As you're reading, just jot down ideas, highlight thesis statement. Another thing that would be important to do is look at where the thesis statement is in the essay. While we often teach that the thesis statement should be in the introduction, many of these published essays, in fact, have the thesis statement later on, sometimes even at the very end. So where is the thesis in the essay, and what does that do for the success of the essay that you're reading? You also want to consider the way that the essay is constructed. So is it a narrative? Is it in fact itself a comparison essay? Is there some kind of analysis of a system or a cultural aspect happening within the essay? How is it organized? So is the essay itself taking you through a chronological order? Is it going through a sort of method of priority? Is it comparing different points? You can have a look at things like headers, things like that, topic sentences. You want to write down what the main argument of the essay is, and this can usually be found once you find the thesis. And also look at the points that are discussed, look at the topic sentences. This can also help you to figure out how the essay is organized. So other things that you can look at is the type of voice. So does the writer use a lot of humor? Is it more of a journalistic approach? Is it written in a formal tone or an informal tone? Is it a critical essay? Is it examining something and giving opinion or feedback about this? So this is the sort of tone of voice that the author is using in order to help enhance their argument. And methods of proof. I have a PowerPoint on Blackboard that discusses methods of proof. So is the essay appealing to ethos, which is like the ethics of the essay? Is it the author establishing himself or herself as an authority in some way? Is the author drawing upon other names of authority in order to help establish the credibility? Pathos is appealing to more like emotion. So is the essay sort of trying to invoke some feelings within the reader as a type of call to action? Or is the essay appealing to logos, which is more of the logic side? So is the essay using facts and figures and data in order to strengthen their argument? And then finally, which one do you feel is most effective and why? Which one speaks to you the most? Which one would you talk about over the dinner table or when you're with your friends? So after you've read each of your essays and you've decided which two you're going to compare, then you want to start by constructing your own thesis. So again, a thesis statement is about the main idea or argument that you are going to address and the points to be discussed. So basically, which of the two essays that you're comparing and what points are you going to use to compare them? So I have an example here. In Canada, You're Like My Favorite One Day Uncle, Richard Van Camp offers advice to Canada, whereas in Cultural Appropriation, Chelsea Bowell offers advice to the reader. So this is how I'm going to structure my essay. So I'm going to look at what types of advice is Richard Van Camp giving to Canada and how does that strengthen or hinder his argument? And Chelsea Vowell offers advice to the reader about things that the reader might think about. And hopefully that way she's drawing up a call to action from the reader. So ways that you can organize a comparison essay, there's basically two ways. One is called the block method, and the other is the point-by-point method. So in the block method, you would fully discuss essay one, talking about the points that you want to emphasize that you've established in your thesis. And then you would move on to essay two and talk about the same points that you're going to be using to compare. One of the tricky things with the block method is because there is a sort of standard of having at least 3 body paragraphs within an essay. You'll want to consider, is your essay performing enough by only having these 2 main paragraphs? It certainly can. But also you're going to want to make sure that you don't deviate too far one way or the other away from the essay to talk about other things, because then really you're introducing a new topic into a paragraph. The point-by-point method, you discuss each point in a separate paragraph by using both essays to discuss the same point. So in the table here, I have, paragraph 1 would be about point 1, talk about the first essay, then the second essay, then you move on to point 2, and then you move on to point 3. And I can see as I'm saying this that there's a typo here where I have point 1, point 1, point 1. Please pretend that says point 1, point 2, and point 3. Okay, so after you've sort of organized and you've taken some notes and you've looked at the ways that you're going to compare and how you're going to structure that within your essay, then you can move on to writing your introduction and your conclusion. I always recommend that you write the body of your essay before doing the introduction, because sometimes you'll find that as you were writing, a new idea comes up that you haven't addressed in your introduction, and then you have to go back and edit it in. So if you write the body of the essay, it gives a better opportunity for you to really focus in on what exactly are you going to say in this essay. You'll know what you're going to say because you've already said it. So your introduction will explain the purpose of the essay. It'll establish the points that are discussed. This is not the time to go into detail. It's just the opportunity to set up your reader so that they are informed of what they are going to be reading about. And then your conclusion, you kind of invert it. So you summarize the points that you discussed and you reestablish the purpose of the essay. It's very important in a conclusion that you don't introduce new information. Many times people will add in a sort of call to action in a conclusion, but this is really anchored within the argument of the essay. So don't introduce new facts or new ideas in your conclusion. It's really about summarizing. And finally, at this point in our course, we are working on proper citations. So please be sure to properly cite your sources. It's important that you review this so that you know how to cite things. In this course, we use MLA. The library has guides on citation systems such as MLA, which we use in this course, APA, which you may use in other classes, as well as Chicago. So have a look at the library website to determine the proper way to cite things. Remember, you need to include a works cited, and you also need to include in-text citations whenever you quote your essay. So I hope that this gives you an idea of how to structure a comparison essay. If you have any questions, please don't hesitate to reach out, and best of luck in all of your writing.